models are not a product, okay? So what it is that I think that is what the whole intention of this action that we took upon ourselves is really about, is to bring the public at large to understand of what's going on, and the designers who might not even know what they're doing or what their casting directors are doing to actually know what's going on.
Well, Iman, it's interesting you point that out, because we've spoken to Alice Templey, one of the designers that you've called out of London, and she said last season's casting decision was based on available models, and says there just aren't enough models of colour around. That was her response when we went to her with this coalition letter. Bethan, respond.
No, I can understand how that might be true for her. At that moment, sometimes different seasons are different things. And I do know that quite often I've heard designers say, the model agencies don't send them to us. And I do understand that. So when we talk about the casting directors and the stylists, I definitely have to also add that model agencies are in a sort of a tight position, too, because they're working critically and politically with casting directors and stylists. They're sort of like cramped in, and they want to send girls to a certain place. And they're not as many models of color as there are whites, that's true, but that's because the market hasn't bared. Once people start to feel that they can really show them and they can sell them and they will actually get results from them, believe me, there will be more. But we have to sort of push this in order to get that to happen.
Is it time to boycott these designers who aren't getting on with this?
You know, there are many people writing us in support and saying, you know, you just have to stop using the brands. That's their choice. Someone who feels strongly about something should choose to do what they feel best at. For me, I'm not sitting there and say boycott designers. What I'm trying to do is educate designers. That's my plan, to educate, to make you be responsible, to think more about what you should be doing and less about let's follow what seems editorially proper. We have to change that.
Do you want to see a process of positive discrimination?
Somebody said to me the other day, why should it matter what's on the runway? I'll tell you why. Because to me, there is a political underlining issues of race here. The photography and runway is a really very powerful tool. The absence of people of color on the runways or in photography just reinforces that to our young girls that they are not beautiful enough, that they are not acceptable enough. That is my worry. I have a 12-year-old, and I don't want to see, because in the diversity that we live in, the world that we live in is not what the runways are showing. And that, to me, is the concern. It's a bigger issue at large than just about runway and models.
Has the increased use of Asian models contributed to this issue? Do you think designers using Asian girls instead of black girls at this point?
There were more black models were used in the 70s and 80s than it's being used now. And to me, it is unacceptable. I understand. Trust me, I understand the business of it. I'm a businesswoman, so I understand. I'm not telling a designer that if that girl does not work for your clothes, for your runway, for that particular season, that you have to hire her. That's not the issue. But I don't want to ever hear again a young model telling me that they have said to her, we are not seeing black models this season. To me, that's offensive. To me, that's a racist remark.